Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Sickcast, aka the Siblings in Cardboard podcast. I'm your host today, Noah, joined by my buddy / co-hosts Donnie and Thomas. Whether you're a veteran card gamer or a first timer just testing the waters, we are all siblings in cardboard. Guys, how have things been since the last time we talked?
Oh man, you almost nailed it perfect. One little choke at the end.
Yeah,
that wasn't bad, man. That wasn't bad.
One little choke at the end. That's the typical flesh and blood experience, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I got a question for you guys.
Okay, shoot.
Which do you think would be the bigger mistake? Going camping alone with Vincent or catcalling Uzuri on the street?
Catcalling Uzuri on the street. I feel like with Vincent, there might be some mystique and like there's some. I feel like there's going to be a conversation. You're going to get a little something. It'll get demonic and twisted towards the end. But I feel like being from where Uzuri's from and having so much success in the pits, it's like an instantaneous death. And if not, you're marked. So. No.
You know what? That's a really good point. I was sitting here thinking that going camping alone with Vincent would absolutely get you ritualistically sacrificed in some kind of way.
Yeah.
I would not want to do either one because I want to live, but I don't know. You're probably right. What do you think, Thomas?
So I got to cheat a little bit because I read this one, I think, on YouTube. So I've contemplated it, and I decided there are fates worse than death, and I think catcalling Uzuri would you'd probably have some alone time with Acct or Riptide after that.
Yeah, probably.
I just don't think it would end up very good. You start out chasing Uzuri and end up with a Riptide. What was that?
Did you guys see the question that I posted today?
Yeah, about Arachne's pet.
Yeah, what kind of pet would Arachne have?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, you ought to go check out those options. Those were kind of cute. But
I think they're fun. It's just
that's the idea, just to do something silly and fun. Just I don't know. Boost engagement, get people talking. Something cool, Just different.
In my head, I imagine he has a dog like John Wick.
Okay.
But I'll go see what the answers are, and I'll answer myself later. Okay. So, what did we do in our last week of Flesh and Blood?
I honestly don't remember doing a whole lot. Last Tuesday, I had another armory, but I can't remember my record to save my life. It feels like it's been a while since I've played Flesh and Blood, honestly. I skipped on Friday because I had the thing with my daughter. We went to a little fall festival at one of the local schools that she wanted to go to. It ended up raining on us, and we just wandered around and ate snow cones in the rain, but it was a good time. She had fun, so that's all that mattered.
The armory you're talking about was actually before our last recording.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We recorded on Wednesday last week.
Yeah, man, I'm getting so mixed up with that stuff. But yeah, I really haven't played Flesh and Blood since last week. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, I went on Friday. So that was just me and one other person showed up, and we just jammed a few games. Then we played a round of Crack Shuffle Play, which I've had a great time every time I've done Crack Shuffle Play. It's funny. I always look at my packs and think, man, this pack is awful, but it is a great set of Crack Shuffle Play packs. Monetary value does not necessarily equal limited value.
Fair enough.
I didn't play very much Flesh and Blood in person, technically, this weekend at all. We didn't go on Sunday, which Thomas was busy, so we just didn't go on Sunday. But I wasn't particularly feeling super well this weekend, and so I just was lazy about. Didn't feel like going on Friday, which I don't know if you guys didn't fire because of me. I'm sorry, but
there's only two of us.
It just wasn't. Yeah, I feel like this is that lull right before the Pro Quest anyway, and so I don't know. I just wanted to take the time, but I do want to definitely get back at it. Although I will for sure miss Sunday because I will be doing family stuff, unfortunately.
Any chance you'll be able to make it out tomorrow? For the Tuesday night?
I'd maybe come grab you. It's a little bit of a drive for Johns Creek, but we can see if I could leave on time to go.
If the cases show up, it's like a win-win-win, right? Because then everybody like gets to leave there with theirs, and then I get to start doing my
that's a good point.
day shorts.
You have a case of Donnie's, right?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'll try to make it happen so that you can get your product ASAP.
Look at all of this.
Yeah. We're all coordinating.
Look at that.
I did play a ton of games of Flesh and Blood. Like, I've played so many rounds of Dash.io over and over. And I also got to play one thing of UPF with some family.
Awesome.
I ended up with Brevant again. Apparently I'm a Brevant main. And it came down to a point where the person playing the professor had a card sitting in Arsenal for forever, literally had nothing left in the deck, and then had no ability to do anything. And we're all at 1 life. And the Melody gives him a vigor token so he could shoot the gun. And so he shoots the gun, and then it turns out he had a Liquid Cooled Mayhem in Arsenal, which he was able to play because he had 4 Evos, and threw that at the Melody. So he shot at me and threw that at the Melody, and didn't manage to kill either of us. And when we look back, if he would have just thrown both of them at me, he would have taken all of my cards. I would have had nothing left in hand. Melody would have went. She could have killed me with the guitar. And then neither of them would have anything left because she had no attacks left in her deck.
Wow.
And the guitar would have broke, and they would have stalemated. But instead, that's not what happened. He split the attacks, and then I bonked her on the head and killed her.
Okay. Well, games are more satisfying when there's a winner anyway, right?
I don't know. Getting killed by the guitar is pretty funny. I'm totally into getting bonked by the guitar for a stalemate between the professor and Melody. It would have been great.
Yeah, I could just see that flavor-wise. Melody and Professor Teklevossen staring at each other across the battlefield
while she's holding her busted loot. And his gun, just no steam. It's cold.
Yeah. That man, I can't wait to actually get some games of UPF in.
It's good.
Johns Creek didn't close so early, I'd want to stick around over there, but
no modifications, right?
We just got to get the person running Johns Creek to sit down and play one with us.
Well, maybe, but we can talk about that after the fact.
When you're done with your shift, you're ready to go home, right?
Exactly.
No matter what kind of fun is involved. Okay. Anyone else do anything notable?
Not really. Just want to make sure that everybody keeps an eye out for new content that we'll have coming, throughout this week and hopefully going forward. Since we've got our cases of bright lights coming in very, very soon, we should have some stuff to be able to put out. So look forward to that. And
I do plan on doing a deck tech with my deck, but I'm going to wait until the card guys do theirs and see if that content overlaps. And if it does, then I'll skip it and let the deck tech live there.
Seems good.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that content's going to get published, so we'll see. I'm sure they'll do a great job. I'm very excited for this deck.
It's the card guys. Of course they'll do a good job.
They had my favorite spoiler video, with the redneck bender.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was wondering how they were gonna do it. So for an all mix set, they did robots. I liked it.
The robots were great.
I thought it was really cheeky and really like an assertive way to remember your triggers at the end. I like it.
So
it's always good.
It was a very exciting weekend for Flesh and Blood. Before we get to that, we should knock out our market minute.
Cards like Tome of Imperial Flame, which are actually at a pretty modest price, will probably end up going up. I think once a lot of players jump this Lexi ship and they realize that they have to play another meta hero if that's what they so choose, this card's gonna go up. I think it's totally fine right now. It's sitting at 22 on TCG low. You could probably grab a play set for 15 a piece if you really tried in some of the marketplaces. But like I would say, start looking and start getting them now. I know that the product is plentiful, but I think it actually has a chance to go up. And I think you should a Tome of Imperial Flame from the.
Okay. Sorry, I missed it.
No, you're good.
What else, Noah?
And then I wanted to talk about just some of the impact that the reprints have had. So take a look now that we have actual value around Tekla Foundry Heart out of the bright lights and the chess piece Findel Spring Tunic, so we can kind of actually gauge how it's impacting the market. And so you could pretty much get a Tekla Foundry from Bright Lights for probably about $50, maybe even less right now, which is pretty modest. I think that's totally fair. Even the history pack ones haven't, just because there's not enough of them out in the world. I would assume there's not a lot of people opening HP1 versus Bright Lights right now.
Yeah,
and it might just be that it's much more common, obviously, to come out of Bright Lights. So the history pack's still at 85, but I would take that with a grain of salt, to be honest. I think that the Bright Lights will definitely bring that one down in line. So that's nice to see. And then Tunic as well from Bright Lights is about $80. So you're looking at an $80 Tunic TCG low.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
It's astonishing that one of the most coveted pieces of all time has found a really reasonable resting spot, I think, for a lot of initial investment. I mean, $80 is still an $80 card, but it'll probably go down. I mean, I assume it's going to trend down as more and more product continues to get open, especially the Bright Lights.
As good as the Tunic is, as versatile as that card is, you can literally play it in anything. It is $80 is a fantastic price point.
I think so.
Yeah, it's hard to complain. I remember people complaining when it was 200-ish. And rightfully so. And everyone's just like, you only got to buy it once and it works for all your decks. Like, you could, if you don't have a flame scale furnace, you could technically run a Tunic and do a little bit with it, and so on for all the other chess pieces. But at $80, like, I feel like you should buy it. You've been on the fence, you should pick it up.
It's definitely, I mean, you can, I think for these expansion card slots, because Tunic, once you have one, you only need one. So again, I think that type of, unless you have multiple decks, you just get lazy, you don't want to swap them out, but then you wouldn't be being this frugal. Give it a little bit. It'll probably drive down toward the 60s. I honestly feel like if you're on the fence about it, as more of this product gets open to find the marvels and the stuff, it's like the dust till dawn. It's only going to go down. Just give it a little bit.
So don't buy into the hype. Might want to wait.
I mean, $80 is totally fair if you want to get it now and get out. I think you could even haggle in some of the marketplaces and probably get it closer to 70 anyway, or 60, because they're some of them are pretty modest with it.
You do need to be savvy though, right? Because when Worlds is like looms a week or two before, don't card prices tend to kind of drift upwards?
Yeah,
they do.
Season are going to put them up too.
It's just that the way I think about it is most like, if Dromai becomes the next Lexi in terms of total number of shares, Tunic I don't think is the thing that Lexi players are going to need. It would be the Flame Scale. Yeah, and so Flame Scale is actually on my list for that very reason. I think it's still very reasonably priced for the success that Dromai has and will have in the meta, and I think that it's totally fine to pick up a Rainbow Foil Flame Scale Furnace right now. I think it was TCG low of 110. And it's, if you want to pay the extra $20 or so for the cold foil, I think that's totally fine. But if it becomes another Lexi New Horizons, you're not going to get that cold foil value, because the playability of the Rainbow Foil will make it, I mean, they'll be borderline, the same as New Horizons was. So I feel like if you're buying the cold foil, you're doing it for self. I like my shiny, not for some kind of price spike, because it won't happen with a card with that much playability.
Yeah, you're doing it for Magpie reasons, not for playability reasons.
Right, and then at that point, just try and find your gold foil, which now that's beautiful and steep.
Yeah, that's extra Magpie.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the strongest performer price-wise from the Bright Lights expansion?
Like in terms of the legendaries?
Just in general. Like, I was surprised Tome was, you said it was in the 20-ish.
On the spot here, buddy.
Yeah, from what it looks like, the Fabled has some value, a little bit more than Light of Soul right now. Rightfully so. It's about 190 on TCG low, which I think it's fair. It doesn't have its huge initial power spike, I don't think. I mean there is a good card.
It does create infinite combos, like infinite recursion, not infinite damage or anything. which is way more interesting than the previous Fable.
Outside of that, though, in terms of legendary, it's going to be the extended arts, and Warband of Bologna is sitting at about 125. So it's okay.
That's a good helmet.
It's wonderful art. Let me tell you, I want
it's fantastic.
I want the card simply for that. I will this into existence that I will have one of those in my case. Thank you so much, MinMax. You're the best. I know it's in there, so I'm not even worried about it. But that's definitely one of my wants. But yeah, Shriek Razors, right on down to $20 instantly. Kind of where I thought it would be. I mean, Rainbow Foil Flick Knives is right around the same. Let's be real. It's not much more. It's just in terms of the class. If you're not playing Uzuri, you're not playing Assassin. And Uzuri, I think, will get better.
Now you say that, but we're going to talk about an Arachne here in a few minutes.
We will, and that might spark some interest as well. But I definitely think that it's accurately priced right now for what it is. Most of the legendaries that are non-foil are getting the Dusk Till Dawn treatment of being around $50 or so for the heart and like singularity. So right around where it'll be.
Which is exciting because I think I want 2 adaptive platings.
They're comfortably priced as well. About $20 rainbow foils.
I mean,
I have not really figured out the use case for that card yet. Since it's not a proto base, you can't get it with Fabricate.
It's block 3.
It's not like you can. Well, yeah, but surely there's better spots. There's better cards you can use in that slot.
So for mechanologists, your glove options are pretty limited. You've got Galvanic Bender, which is block 1, which plating, adaptive plating does at base. So it's already better than Galvanic Bender unless you're doing Nitro Mechanoid. Then your other options are Goliath Gauntlets, no block, +2 damage, or Seeker's Mitts for doing top of the deck stuff with dash. So if you're facing down like a Bravo or maybe an Azuri or an Azalea, 3 block is huge.
Okay.
Because like or even like a Lexi, right? Where you can block with your chest and adaptive plating to block out a 5 damage arrow. Pretty big. And then if you're brave and you're not worried about your deck junking up at the top and getting forced to use your Achilles accelerators, you could put adaptive plating there too. Get 3 more block in your deck.
So if you did a turtle dash, like the old control turtle dash, you could just put huge block numbers in each one of your each one of your equipment.
Yeah, I would probably do Crown of Providence and then Tech Low Foundry Heart and then 2 adaptive platings if you're trying to go for max block. If you're doing dash, like I think either dash, the Crown of Providence is just way too high value because you want to shove that max V into Arsenal and sometimes you just need to get rid of it and so on.
Okay. I mean, I can see that then. So anything else before we move on to the first topic?
Buy a Valiant Dynamo. I think that they're at a very low price right now. I think you can pick them up for pretty cheap. I know we're outside of Blitz season, but just get it. Get one. Get one right now. The cold foils are under 100, which I think is insane because it is still Monarch First Edition. Although I think there's a lot of it still left over, but let's be real, it's worth more than $100. But the rainbow foils are trending down. I mean, I've actually seen a couple in the 50 range being sold on the RF side. And they're sitting at TCG low of 64, but they're still trending downward. I just take a look at it. If you've really been looking for one, I think it's totally fine to pick it up. It's at a very reasonable price. It'll gain a little bit of steam during the Blitz and Skirmish season with Kasai players if they want to play something very competitive. But I feel like you should get it.
Yeah, it's definitely best in slot for Kasai or any time you're like dual wielding warrior. All right. So I guess let's move on to a really exciting competitive weekend in Flesh and Blood. We had 2 battle hardens or 3 battle hardens, 3 in France, Japan, and here in the United States. And
2 CC and 1 Blitz.
And surprising no one, it was dominated by one hero except for the Blitz event.
Can I guess?
Oh, it was Arachne? Okay.
No.
We did see a great Arachne game on stream. That he ripped that Dromai apart. I've never seen a Dromai more tilted. Oh man!
That one.
Oh dude!
Arachne has a horrible matchup into Dromai.
I don't know for sure that the player was disqualified, but I've heard from a lot of people, and I don't want to say it's a sure thing, but I heard he was DQ'd because he picked up the Arachne's deck before actually conceding and started looking through his deck.
Ooh.
It was quite the thing to watch live too, because you could see the person playing Arachne was like very like, I don't know what's happening. But you could see his soul leave his body when his Tolmatai got banished.
Man, that's hard to use a Tolmatai if he's banished.
Yeah. And then he put the burn them all out against Arachne, and all of us are just going regicide, regicide, regicide. And then he gets the regicide, and it's the end of the game. And then the Arachne player is just so good. He's like, I know he's got Dominion in his hand and doesn't throw it. And just finishes him milling him out anyway. The Dromai only had 2 hands left after that.
Very well played. That's impressive. Yeah, there was one. Was that the same Arachne that ended up in the top 8 of one of the events?
Let me look.
I think it's time to play Arachne.
I think it was the PTI in Toulouse?
Okay, no. Which is weird because that Arachne I think was 3-0 leading into that. So the Arachne, his goal was to just chew up Lexis. His deck was completely built to chew up Lexis, and they interviewed him after, and he's like, well, what's your plans for Dromai? You seem to do pretty well for Dromai. He's like, during practice, it was just scoop. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was my understanding of that matchup. I mean, that's what I've heard from other creators is that Arachne just auto loses to Dromai. It's worse than the Uzuri into Dromai matchup.
He blocked with Already Dead 11 times.
Wow, 11. Wait, what?
What?
How many times?
He has 3 remembrances in his deck.
Oh man.
He remembranced, I'm pretty sure he remembranced specifically Already Dead, maybe Command and Conquer. 8 he remembranced 8 6s back into his deck and 1 Codex of Frailty.
Wow.
Dude, he always had the popper. He always had it. Yeah, it was a great game. Awesome. It was really good. And there was an Arachne in the top 8 at the PTI in Toulouse, France.
Toulouse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I wasn't sure if I knew it was in France. I just couldn't remember if it was the PTI or the Battle Hardened itself.
So I guess let's just recap the PTI here in the United States first in Milwaukee.
Sure.
Who you said that that was won by Evan Henderson on Lexi?
Evan Herndon.
Sorry,
it was
mispronounced it. Herndon.
The same guy. I'm 99% sure it was the same Evan Herndon that was second place at US Nats a couple weeks ago.
And that doesn't tell a great story because if you look at all the other top 8s, they're very Lexi dominated, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But here in Milwaukee, it wasn't that Lexi dominated. It's just Lexi took the win. I think the top 8 only had 1 Lexi in it, and the only repeat hero. No, there was no repeat hero in the.
No, there's 2 Dromais.
2 Dromais? Okay, 2 Dromais. That's really diverse, and I frankly completely unexpected. A Kano got in top 8.
I mean, Kano will surprise people.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to cheat on that AB, and Boogeyman's going to get you.
And Brody going in was top seed on Azalea.
That dude could literally pilot his ham sandwich to a top 8 at this point.
Dude, just slip a Command and Conquer in there for extra crunch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's wiping his butt with PTIs. I don't know. The kid is amazing.
Is how many he has, I believe.
Golly, he's just an amazing flesh and blood player. So him being at the top seed is completely expected at this point.
Right. And then speaking of really high tier American players or players that participate in American tournaments, the PTI was taken by Michael Feng on Lexi. It was a Dromai and Lexi match at the end. I'm pretty sure that's very Lexi favored. It's not a sure win, but it's not easy for Dromai.
It used to be Dromai favored, but things have kind of changed in the way the Lexi's been built.
Mm-hmm.
So it's closer to 50-50 or maybe 55-45. Of course, that's what anybody but Mara Ferris would say. I'm sure she would tell us that she still eats Lexi's all day for breakfast.
Every Dromai is a 90-90.
Yeah.
Every Dromai is a 90-90 matchup. The Dromai players have a 90% win rate into all their matchups, and everyone else has a 90% win rate into Dromai.
I don't know about that, but
well, I mean, she doesn't convert. She somehow manages to menace tournaments. Absolutely menace them, but never get any living legend points.
What is going to happen after Lexi actually goes, and all of these heroes are just kind of treading water, trying to get over the top? Something's got to be dominant. I don't know if Dromai's actually going to be dominant with her matchup spread right now.
I don't think so either, because I actually think Brute will be quite good once Lexi is gone. Levia has already got great numbers. She's a fantastic aggro deck, and she just has a really bad matchup into Lexi because the Ice Disrupt just sometimes make her take a ton of blood debt damage and just automatically lose. She has a really good Dromai matchup. She has a really good Icelander matchup. So I think Levia is a hero to watch once Lexi LLs. I think Phi could be potentially pretty scary when Lexi LLs.
Ninjas come back full force.
And I personally think Dash.io, once Lexi LLs, is the best aggro deck in the format.
That's a hot take.
I did a game earlier today. I dealt 39 damage to a Lexi in a single turn.
You OTK'd a Lexi?
She had to block with her entire hand. I threatened 39 in one turn, and she still died. Blocked with all of her gear and her hand. I technically dealt 46 damage that turn. I put myself to 2 because I had Remorseless on me. That counts, right? That extra 6, that's value.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I also played low risk because I had a Spark of Genius in my hand. I was like, if I play this and I get a yellow or blue, I get to get another item out and still throw the max V. I didn't do it. I just threw the max V using the Spark of Genius. I think
Dash.io is going to be fantastic.
Dash.io is quite good. Her big turns feel like you're playing Kano with boost attacks instead of arcane damage. You're just top decking and top decking and top decking.
Yeah, did you catch the Dash.io mirror from the PTI event?
I did. It was hysterical. They were having a great time.
Yeah, that was Sam Dando and Dash herself, Rachel Stoddard. I think they brought the same list, didn't they?
It looked really similar. They had some like interesting picks that I thought about. I don't like Soup Up. It doesn't boost. It does galvanize, but it doesn't boost.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's a good card. It gets like that automatic go again if you've broken an item this turn. But that doesn't count as a boost if you're trying to build up to max V and stuff. And I think they definitely had max V in their deck.
I don't remember ever seeing it. Maybe they cited it out.
Personally, I feel like aggro v aggro matchup, especially Mechanologist, whichever Mechanologist manages to play their max V first is usually the winner. Because they're going to force the other one to block first. And as typical with most aggro matchups, the first person to block loses.
Did either of you guys happen to see any of the coverage for the Battle Hardened in Tokyo, the Blitz event?
The tiniest bit. I tried to watch it and totally fell asleep.
Did you see any of it, Noah?
No.
I didn't either. The only thing that I was really able to gather from the event as far as coverage, trying to track anything down on Twitter or anything down on the official site, it hasn't been posted yet as of time of recording. The winner was Chain. It was a player by the name of, got it written down here. Sorry, I lost my notes. Hiroshi Kanaya on Chain, and Hiroshi took down a Dory in the finals.
It's cool, Dory making the finals.
Dory and Blitz is a whole different beast. Dory can actually hold herself fairly well in Blitz.
Yeah, she's got a great fridge.
More of a menace in Blitz.
Yeah, it might just be that Kasai is usually the preferred pick. She's a little bit more consistent, has the same fridge.
What do you think about that, Noah? Is Kasai better than Dory?
I mean, I think Kasai has the better, Kasai has a better high roll potential, but I mean, Dory has the same kind of snowball. It just, if you draw the right cards and you have the copper and it lines up, I mean, Kasai doesn't matter whether you block or not. You're not going to be able to block that damage out, and once she robs tempo, but I don't know. Dory has, I think, her matchups in Blitz, which force her to play a weird sort of exchange, and sometimes you just can't get back off your back foot if you have to give up a couple of hands. There are some decks that just pressure just as hard. The cards have to line up either way. It's just, I would preferably play Dory in
If
Blitz.
you were playing Chain, what would your approach be? Would you try to aggro him, or would you try to fatigue him?
Chain, you have to just go for it. You just
Really?
go full force. Yeah, no, there's no way around it. I'm pretty sure you smash right into it. There's
I would think that you could fatigue Chain if you go first. So you go first, you attack real big into him, make him block with a few cards, make you think he's going to aggro. So you get to eat a few cards out of his hand and mill his deck a little bit. And then from then on, block every card, because your whole deck blocks 3. I think you could probably pull it off and just block him out, unless he gets a really big, what's the specialization called?
Oh, Lord.
It's like if he mills that, if he shackles that away, he definitely loses. If he doesn't and gets to play that because it hits so hard, he definitely has a good chance of winning.
Is it soul reaping?
Yeah,
I was never a Chain player.
I think it's soul reaping, but it comes across for like 6 for 1 cost. It's just so efficient, but it's not one of those cards he could play from Banish. So Chain picks up 10 more points heading towards Living Legend. He's at 386, so quite a long ways away before Chain won't be in the Blitz meta any longer.
I don't think we'll see many more Living Legends coming out of Blitz anytime soon.
Right. The closest is Kano at 415, and that would translate to just tons and tons of skirmish wins to see him leave anytime soon.
There's just not enough events right now.
Mm-hmm.
It'll happen in time, but I think that's fine. I don't think Blitz is doing very bad. I think it has a great spread. I think a lot of the decks can hold their own. Each one gets to have their day. Shane is another hero that if the cards align, some turns are way crazier than other turns. And so, that's part of the thing. I think you just have to roll the dice as an aggro v aggro, and just you have to go for it. On the off chance that they slip up, I think you get the win.
I know in Dash, if you go second, you can attempt to aggro. If you go first, you have to fatigue. That's just straight up how Dash's math works. And if he doesn't get the soul reaping, you usually win. It's soul reaping is the actual difference. Kind of funny. Oh, and another problem is with Dash is you can't let any non-attack actions end up in your graveyard because you lose to the invert existence.
So you probably, I don't know if you'd be able to side them all out in Blitz.
You literally just run one Teklo Pounder, and if you go first, you boost into him and get him to block a few cards, and then you never boost again until you either commit to kill him or he's fatigued. Because the Teklo Pounder cannot go into your graveyard or you lose. Back to Classic Constructed, though. Lexi literally picked up every single point this weekend. She picked up 32 points towards Living Legend. She's now at 958. Pretty much guaranteed. 100% guaranteed now. Like, with that many points picked up, only 42 away.
She swept everything this weekend. We knew she was going to go out during PQ season. It was never a doubt in anybody's mind.
And as far as tier lists go for going into PQ season, it's just Lexi all the way around.
If you really care about winning, yes, play Lexi.
or play something that can at least target Lexi without giving up some of the more obvious matchups that you're likely to see at a ProQuest, meaning know your local meta and make sure you're ready to deal with the Dromais and Bravos.
So I'm sorry, I found the Battle Hardened Tokyo. There's a live stream, and I went right to the end of it, and I saw the Dory the Shane, and I said, okay, we'll know if it was a fatigue match. We'll just go and see there's no cards in their decks. It lasted like 3-4 turns. That's I'm telling you, that is the way it works.
Maybe they were hungry.
You sit down and you go, that's really cool. Because the longer you give him the shackles, that's just a bigger chain extension. So you're running on a clock. So if you smash Shane hard enough and in like 2 turns and put him to where he has to value the life, he's still working on big carded hands, but you got to get him sooner rather than later. I mean, you have to. But yeah, I mean, I didn't count the turns, but let me tell you, there didn't seem to be a lot of blocking.
Not with only 3 turns.
Yeah.
I'm trying to count the soul shackles. I think that's the dead giveaway.
Yeah.
And
the Soul Shackle. The game ended on Soul Shackle 4. That was it.
He has 2 soul shackles right now, and they're 5-4. There you go.
Oh yeah, it's not going much past that.
So
I guess he went second. I guess he went second. Had an absolutely gas hand right off the bat.
That is the Dory V Shing.
Wow.
Talking about Blitz has me thinking about something else, guys. I've seen some other creators talking about how some of the new heroes still feel like there's something missing from them, like they're not quite there. I mean, they're brand new, so obviously they're not completely figured out yet. But do you think that's a continuing trend from LSS to only give us basically half a hero in CC, but knowing that they're fairly juiced in Blitz? Because Vincett's actually pretty good in Blitz. She came out in the last set, but she is not very good in Classic Constructed right now. Do you think that's intentional, that they're juicing Blitz but holding back CC?
Is that because maybe you can, in CC, you go, okay, I'm just going to disrespect everything Vincett's throwing at me. If she's not throwing the blue one at you that hits your hand, you don't care. And then you just go into her. But you can't do that in Blitz. You can ignore maybe one attack, and then that puts you at like threatening to die from a pummel after that.
Right.
I think part of I don't know if they're doing it intentional, but part of it is, at least for me, is I think you can fatigue and have enough cards in time to take a Vincett to a fatigue state in CC, which you don't in Blitz. There's not enough cards, I think. There's not enough time. And I just think that it becomes more of an aggro meta, which I think Vincett totally wants to play aggro v aggro and not have you trying to sit there and hard block out her attacks over and over again.
Well, it's not just about Vincett. I was hearing similar talk about Tech Levasan, that he's not going to be as good as we initially thought in Classic Constructed, but maybe there's something there for Blitz. What do you guys think?
I think, again, it's just the nature of CC. I think there's more cards involved. There's more time involved for these longer developed strategies in CC, but sometimes that's a good and a bad thing. I just don't think that Tech Levasan has the meta right now or the correct deck setup to play into what is going to be an overtly aggressive meta.
I think LSS is pretty clear that they want to start somewhere that they feel is either balanced or undertuned and work their way up organically. Because let's look at the Dromai cards. Dromai is a good class. They win a lot of games. They have good matchups, but they don't quite win out tournaments fairly often. And so they keep just giving her cards and giving her cards and giving her cards. And we were all freaking out about Tome of Imperial Flame. And now there's already discussion that in some matchups, it's just sideboard. Because despite all the ash it gives you, despite the hand filter, it's not a dragon, it's not attack, and it can't block. So
I mean, I get the philosophy of bringing in mid power heroes and juicing them up depending on what they need in the meta. But I don't know. It's a little frustrating, isn't it?
I think it's the nature of the card games. Do you know, like, there's only so much playtesting that you can physically put behind any type of hero or any type of class or any type of card to know how it's going to interact in the larger meta. And let's be real, some people are specialists because they're specialists. They're just so good at it. So you don't know how they're going to get picked apart until they get picked apart. It's, so, usually it's like something that you can't see until it's in full view, kind of a thing. And so there's like they say, there's breadcrumbs. They can lead you toward where they feel the hero is supposed to be played, but there's still no way of knowing how it's going to interact.
Flesh and Blood is a competitive game, right? That's their focus. They want it to feel good to compete. And a competitive game, when it releases new heroes, they don't want them to just completely be blast out the meta. Their brand new hero goes straight from no living legend points all the way to living legend immediately because it's just so strong. Yeah. Now that's good for other card games where they want to sell product, so they're incentivized to power creep their old cards to get you to buy new cards. But Flesh and Blood's trying to ride this balance where there is some power creep enough to get you to want to play, that there's the limited aspect that gets you to buy product even if it's not for collecting, and to get these other little tweaks and add-ons and side grades for your classes that you're already playing a lot of. I think they're doing a pretty good job. It is pretty disappointing to see someone as cool as Teklevesin just have almost no game into so many matchups, because it just, you look at him on paper and you think to yourself, he can block 3, scrap it, and then play it and block 3 and 2 again. 8 damage, 8 value off of 1 card? That's crazy. It just doesn't work out that way.
It's just, he needs time to set up. It's just, and the meta is not going to let him do it. And it's not going to slow down at all with ice going away. It's going to speed up. It's not the time yet. And I think that there's got to be an offensive defensive package to make him somewhat relevant, but he's always going to have his struggle matchups. Everybody's always going to have their little triangle matchups, and it's just kind of part of a card game. I don't think you can be insulated against every possible matchup. There are decks that eventually rise above and become that, but
maybe there's just some secret sauce that people haven't found. There's a lot of different ways to build Teklevesin. So it's very diverse. It's not because I think he's the most open to build as far as concept goes, because you can go like kind of block value, throw 1 haymaker kind of value, right? Almost like Guardian. You could also bring in the boost package and try to boost into your armor pieces faster so you could play them from Banish. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on him, but just doesn't play very well.
Well, he doesn't yet. I mean, like I said, he's a brand new hero. He has not been figured out yet. But that's the speculation that I've been seeing online on YouTube, on Twitter, is that there's some concern that he may be a puzzle as tough as Vincent to crack. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a ton of depth in Vincent that still hasn't been explored. I mean, there's 2 card pools, right, that she can potentially kind of use, even though one's a little bit more suited toward her, obviously the rune gating. But let's be real, there's a lot of shadow cards. There's a lot of different ways.
Oh, are you saying Slay didn't bring her into the meta?
No. I don't think it did.
But you remember how strongly I felt about Wax, about the new ninja card, right?
Right. Heavy impact to the meta.
At least it's okay against mechanologists, because mechanologists play a lot of 0 attacks. But Slay is just, they give Shadow a card that doesn't do anything, because Shadow's already good. Shadow's already good at killing angels.
That card was made strictly because they had a fancy piece of art. That is all it's for.
It is beautiful.
It is.
I want to play Matt. Yeah, I want to Slay play Matt.
It is terrible. Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Or sleeves.
I can get behind that.
So the other hero is Max. I think Max is already maybe kind of solved. It's clear that you want to do this value game with the mechanoid backup, right? It's just kind of very obvious that's how they pointed him, since he just makes hyperdrivers. Why would you not have Mechanoid backup? Even if you don't run it main deck, have it in side deck for longer, fatiguier matches. I think Dash.io, it's pretty evident how they want her to be built. Not evident what that list should be. There's a lot of variation in the lists I've seen for that hero.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of room for growth. I mean, it's a brand new set. And there's a lot of exciting things to explore.
Like, do you understand how crazy Boom Grenade is?
Yeah.
If let's say I throw a 0 to 60 and I boost it, and then off the top a Boom Grenade's sitting there, and you go, okay, I'm going to value block for 3. That Boom Grenade is getting immediately 4 points of value, and it cranks for an action point, and it gives +2 because of the steam counter on your gun, all for 1 resource. Like, ooh, there's some value, and that's not even the highest value card. There's a higher value card than Boom Grenade. Protocol Red. Okay. Protocol Red, it think about Protocol Red and strictly in the context of Spark of Genius. You play Spark of Genius, you grab Protocol Red, you crank it, you spend 2, you grab a 0 to 60, you play it, you boost, and then you could shoot the gun. And you got to draw a card from your boost earlier in the turn. If you think about the value there, you've thrown 4 plus 2, that's 6 with go again. And you drew a card. So that combination of stuff together is basically a red throttle that draws a card after you use it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Right.
And it if you've got a high octane going, adds to the high octane. And if you've got max V building up, it's another boost in the max V. Red Protocol's crazy. Oh, and let's not forget popping Dromai Dragons at instant speed.
Ooh.
Yep.
So I apologize for getting us derailed, guys.
Okay. Where were we?
We had just talked about all of the battle hardens.
Mm-hmm.
We had a main topic that we wanted to talk about this week, but like I said in the notes, I'm not going first this time. I'm gonna let somebody else do it.
Okay. Yeah.
What are we going first on?
Okay. I think the question is, and do winners win too much? Are they winning too much? And we were talking about how Brody's just sitting on a ton of PTIs, right?
Yeah, him and Michael Feng, Michael as well.
They actually earn more than I think they can realistically use. So they're netting PTIs. And is that healthy for the game? Celebrity status is extremely healthy for the game. People like names that are familiar and to cheer on, and it allows people to go, oh, I want to look at this deck. I know Michael Feng plays it. I'm going to go look up and see if he has a deck tech up. That's really great for any competitive, even like sports, right? You want names to attach to your game. But is it?
Magic had...
Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, is it good that the people winning all the prizes are people who have the means to fly to each of these battle hardens and just come and get them, and the people who are playing locally aren't placing well? And it's like, play better, be a better player, beat them. But when you live and breathe a game, sometimes you're just better because you're a great player to begin with, but you also just have so many more reps than everyone else you're facing against.
Yeah. Magic had a pro players club that supported really talented players going around and participating in the events. I think it'd be really cool if Flesh and Blood adopted something similar. That way, the pro players like Brody and Michael could be incentivized to go to these events, but maybe play a little bit more casually instead of trying to spike to earn income back, because the PTIs can be sold. So that is a big part of how they're staying. What's the word I'm looking for? Staying positive on these events that they're continuing to go to. I don't know if the whole system should be revamped, unless it's something like that still incentivizes these really talented players to travel, play the game, see the world, but also giving a fair shot to the people that aren't, grinding 24/7. People like Joe Schmo down the block still has a chance to qualify for the Pro Tour without having to go through a Pro Tour champion and Pro Tour top 8 competitors on the way.
I think it's tough. I think incentivizing, so having sponsors, maybe not even just LSS sponsoring, like literally sponsors saying, "Hey, wear our jersey, go and play." Pick a fun deck. You don't necessarily have to pick the meta because you don't even need the prize winnings. You're just there to be there and have a great time playing the game. I mean, to be fair, Brody got top 8 with Azalea. He didn't force Alexi into top 8.
Like I said, that kid could top 8 with a ham sandwich with a CNC stuff between the bread. But if we could get the pro players incentivized to show up and not spike, I think that'd be a really healthy place for the game.
I got an interesting one for this, because I think that there's a lot of interesting philosophy about this. But at the core of Flesh and Blood, if it's going to be a competitive game, right, it has to have a competitive atmosphere, and then it really becomes, what does that mean? Like, what is competitive? You know, like, how far do you go to be competitive? And I think that when you talk about having them show up, and I mean, yes, they're still going to get their reps and their experience elsewhere, but if you have them show up and they're not playing in that mind space of trying to be the best, they're also not continuing to gain a competitive edge that they probably have an obsession with. And I think that all card games are a product of how much time you put in. And I know this personally because I feel competitive at parts, but I know I don't put in as much time and effort, so I don't even feel bad that I don't place a certain, you know what I mean? I know that there needs to be more effort. Does it mean that everybody's going to have the means to be obsessed and play it 24/7? No, but then it's not going. You got to reason with yourself. You might not be a super competitive player. It just, if you don't have the time, and I'm not saying like in terms of travel, but like anything to put in the effort, you're really like, you got to be reasonable with yourself and what you're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if the people out here who do, like another Brody or Michael thing, then they start getting lax because they're being allowed to, and then they don't get to be that best player. They'll quickly get eclipsed. I mean, it's a dog eat dog kind of competitive lifestyle. Even the top players must still go and just compete and compete and compete, and you want that. It's like when Magnus Carlsen destroys every single person for years and years in chess and still does.
Hold up, but Magnus Carlsen doesn't show up to like a local high school chess championship and just give people the smackdown.
He does not do that. I'm not, again, I have concession on both sides.
I know, that's a little extreme. I'm not saying Battle Hardens are local high school championship level, but I think that's what we're talking about. We have these players that if they were to make divisions in Flesh and Blood, if the game got big enough to have divisions, some of these players would be the top of the pro division. And there would be an amateur division and a pro division.
That might be something that needs to be discussed. Again, I don't think that there should be no concession made, because it is kind of crazy to have an atmosphere where majority of these they hold PTIs and they can sell them. And yes, they're still sellable, but again, that's still a means that you have to buy into. And so if you didn't have the means to travel to these places, you probably don't have the means to buy a PTI anyway. And so I understand that there might still need to be a way, but you also want to keep those tournaments very, I guess that's kind of double-sided, because if you don't want to keep them diluted, you wouldn't sell PTI, like they wouldn't be sellable. So I feel like there has to be a line. If they're not sellable, then they need to have a way to pass down. And if they are going to be sellable, then I think that they should be a more modest, has to be some concession made.
What if
in one way or another?
What if you say that a player can only win so many PTIs per year? They still get their prize, their gold foil and the cash prize, but the PTI just moves downward. Says first place has already won their allotment of PTIs for the year, passes to second. Second place has already won their PTIs for the year, passes to the third, fourth tiebreaker, and so on.
I mean, as long as they're still being compensated, and maybe they can even get some kind of a card that's on value with what as long as they don't feel like they're being cheated out of some rightful winning, then I think that's totally fine.
Do you think there should be like an overachiever cold foil where once you hit your PTI allotment, they just start handing you this cold foil, and you got someone sitting there with like 30 of them being like, bragging rights, dog.
Let's be real. If they did it with anything, I wouldn't even think it'd be that unhealthy. Most of these players, this is something we could talk about. There's a hero that came out of a judge pack, and so let's be real. Things that are going to be obtainable, as people call the Pokemon chase. So if you gave out top players judge packs just because you had extras, right? It still gives them value that the public can't get, but it makes the cards more accessible by that. It's some way of still keeping collector's value without completely flooding the market, but then there's some incentive both ways.
And
oh, I can get some of the judge cards. That's kind of neat. And I don't get my PT. Well, shoot, I get to. I would take that.
And I think more players getting more PTIs is good for the game, because if you go to look at your finances and say, okay, I could travel, but I can't afford to buy the PTI too, that you're priced out. And maybe you got third by tiebreakers, you got third at a tournament, but that wasn't enough to get a PTI. Or is it fifth is the break point where you don't get a PTI? I can't remember.
It depends on the event.
Depends on how many the event and how many people.
First place, I believe. You only get it if you win the Battle Hardened and if you win the PTI event.
So, I think like Worlds and Nationals and stuff, it was like a top amount. I think top 8 or something at Nationals or top 16.
I think it's top 8 in callings and like it was top 32 for the Pro Tour. It might have been top 64. I don't remember. But it scales based on the difficulty of the event.
Another problem with that, and you're never going to fix it, is there's just a lot of players that it's not even called like really collusion, but I mean, like, some people help friends go to RTNs and some people help friends get beat, like people, they're, so you can only go so far. I don't think you should have an infinite amount of PTIs. I agree with that. I don't think, but you should still be compensated in some fashion
100%.
for that. And maybe you don't even need to worry about using PTIs because you just get an invitation. Maybe they do something like that and you could still sell the PTI because it's a win-win. You just get free entry.
I like the idea. I like the idea of if a pro player shows up to a PTI or a Battle Hardened and they've maxed out the amount of PTIs that they've earned, they can still win the event and like send a redemption email or a redemption code into LSS saying, "Hey, I won this thing. Where's my prize?" And they get like sent the judge pack or something similar, like you were talking about.
Right. I was thinking something specifically for overachievers, right? You get like a card. Like, there's a lot of prestige attached to that card too.
Yeah. Give them something worth chasing, but try to spread the PTIs out a little bit more to players that don't get to travel.
Yeah, and I don't think these players who are super great and win lots of events should be de-incentivized at all from continuing to compete at a top competitive level. But I think more PTIs to more people brings more visibility to your big events.
100%. Yeah, I mean, Battle Hardened Atlanta, when I got to see Mara Ferris, Michael Feng, and Brody Spurlock all playing in the same room, that was great because that was right down the road. I enjoyed being able to rub elbows with these extremely talented people. So I definitely don't want to give them any reason to not show up to the next event in Atlanta.
Yeah, I got to have Mara Ferris standing over my shoulder as I slowly ground another Dromai to death with Levia, and that was pretty fun. Like having one of the best Dromai players sitting there watching me slowly grind Dromai to death. But okay, we're wrapping up. Let's shoot. Noah, top 3 heroes other than Lexi to take to ProQuest.
Oh man, we're wrapping up.
No, do it now, quick. Don't think about it too hard.
Top 3. That could be Lexi.
No, other than Lexi.
Other than Uzuri, Icelander, and Katsu.
Donnie?
Okay. Let's see. Top 3. It's got to be Dromai. Got to be Katsu to beat Dromai, and probably Bravo to beat up, possibly on both.
I think Dromai, OG Dash, and Kano.
Okay.
Yep. That's my picks right off the top of my head.
Wait, what were yours? I heard Kano.
Yep.
That's all I heard.
Dromai, OG Dash, and Kano.
Dash IE.
Yep. Dash Inventor Extraordinaire. Okay. Well, that's the end of our show for this week. So you could find me. I just changed my thing to Wet the System Fab so that it lines up. It's not System Wet anymore. And you can find me as Wet the System on pretty much every platform.
Yeah, same thing, different week for me. Draco Hominis 87 on Twitter, Draco Hominis 87 on Discord. You can look me up on fabric.gg, where I write several different series at this point. Still have a few
He's
of
a
them
fab
pending.
dad.
Yeah, hashtag FabDad. That is the one where I started, and will probably be my bread and butter. Next one that I will have posted comes out on the 15th. And then after that, I'll be doing a write up for Calling Dallas. But yeah, check out Fabric. Great website.
I changed my ad on Twitter. I'm still Big Max on Twitter, but the ad's Big Max Fab. It's with a Z, FAB. Twitch will eventually be back to Big Max, so we'll cross that bridge eventually when everything gets centralized, and then we'll have some content going forward and some YouTube shorts from the Siblings and Podcast YouTube channel, and probably some pack openings and stuff. So
Definitely
it'll
some
be fun.
pack
Pack one,
openings.
pick one.
Some fun stuff coming.
Oh yeah, lots of fun stuff.
All right, wrap us up, Noah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you did the intro. You got to do the outro.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed catching up with us this week. And if you did, we need your help. The best way you'll help us is to leave a like and a comment. It makes a huge difference in new channels like ours when you engage with what you see. If you don't want to miss out on future casts, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so you know exactly when to find us again. Until then, take care of yourself, and remember, we're all siblings in cardboard. And that's why you got to discard your cards.
Discard
Bye,
your
everybody.
cards. Bye, everybody.